Imports into Uganda jumped to an all-time high during the pandemic, worsening the country's balance of trade position and by extension its economic woes as the country seeks to emerge out of a huge economic chasm conditioned by COVID-19.
Trade is about exports and imports. What has happened to Uganda's imports in the past few years? They have picked up. They have picked up pronouncedly during a pandemic that we saw it was an example of a demand contraction. The current account deficit last year was 10.2% of GDP. This is the highest in Uganda's history. This is a drain on resources, drain on foreign exchange reserves that are much needed for other purposes, including for servicing the debt.
In a nutshell, Uganda is buying from foreign countries a lot more than it exports, which in addition to draining its limited foreign currency reserves, is also tantamount to exporting jobs and other associated benefits of healthy domestic production. At the recently held Economic Forum in Kampala, experts stressed the need for strong production that can fortify the country's position to supply available and potential markets as a plausible starting point.
I belong to a generation which agitated for market access. The US came up with AGOA. The EU came up with EBA. What do we sell there? And what I've not heard from these presentations is the supply side. You are talking about exports, you are talking about access, you are talking about access. Our problem is not the markets. Our problem is the supply side. Until we address that, not only in doing, but in presentations like this, we are not serious. I'm sorry.
A few years back, Uganda adopted an import substitution trade strategy in order to improve its perennial negative balance of trade position. However, to experts, this had to be followed by deliberate actions to nurture and drive domestic production, to replace major imports and reduce the country's dependency in this area.
We don't talk a lot about investment facilitation, but there are many people, there are many investors who are going to see Uganda as a launch pad for the market, for the continental market. So how do you facilitate those investors so that you can have Uganda as the location of production for the rest of the continent?
This is specifically in relation to the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, whose key aspiration is to allow free flow of goods and services across the continent. To pundits, this is a low-hanging fruit that the country can tap into, given its unique position as a gateway to DR Congo, South Sudan, Central African Republic, among others. But for this to happen, besides investment facilitation by government, policy coherence remains key.
I was really perturbed at the start of this year when government issued a policy to test drivers at the border, irrespective of the strategic decision that had been taken by the Summit of Presidents a year ago or so, to test drivers every 14 days. And you find the Ministry of Health coming up with a policy that is not speaking to other ministries of finance, of transport. And now you can see we are having to reverse growth that had happened in the last few months. Within just a matter of days, everything is put aside.
As a result, according to pundits, Uganda has had to contend with high palm prices, among others, threatening prior gains and its attractiveness to investments. So as the economy emerges out of a deep slump where COVID had thrown it, it's imperative, according to experts, that great effort is channeled at bolstering the country's export docket through putting in place and observing the right supportive policies.